Hello Infiniteers! Today we're going to continue building Monstropolis, and my goal today is to finish building the city portion of the toy box. And let's begin with the domed building that you can see from Mike and Sully Street, as shown in this screenshot from the Monsters Inc. movie. Notice too, there is a square-shaped skyscraper to the right of the big dome. You can see the edge of it beyond that last apartment building at the end of the street. So it looks to me like there's a big downtown area back there, and that's what I want to focus on first. So the rest of the city build will consist of adding buildings to the toy box to fill in some of the empty space and adding some details for those areas. But let's go ahead and begin with this part of the city over here. And the first thing I want to do is take a little square block, and we're going to set it right here on the corner of this building. This is a little spacer block. So if you have the neighborhood where Mike and Sully live, this building right here at the top of the ramp, it's right on the corner of that. And then the building that we want to use that has the dome on it, or a similar dome on it, is under the buildings category. If you scroll to the right, it's the MU School of Scaring. You can see the dome on that really closely matches what we see in the Monsters Inc. movie. So I want to bring this right over to the edge there. And almost right up to that little block. Back one little nudge, about like that. So we want the dome to kind of be lined up with the street there. And we'll go ahead and place the building. And that takes a moment. There we go. And so there is our building. And we can take our little spacer block out. And so if we come over here to the street, and we look from the street over that direction, you can see that dome. And that's exactly what we want. That matches the look of the movie pretty well. The dome's darker than the one in the movie, but I like the way that looks. And now that we have that, we can kind of place the rest of the buildings around. And I want to kind of put a perimeter around this building so we don't have the edge of the terrain just sitting here. And we need to cover up these ramps for the road, and over there, that ramp. So this is what we're going to be focusing on today. And while we do that, let me pull up my screen grabs here. Okay, so we're going to begin on this corner. And if we keep going over to the right, I want to get to the Incredibles buildings that we've been using. And we'll start with this really big one, the stately Metroville Tower. We're going to drop that right down here on the terrain, right on the corner, just like that. And then we'll put a big one over here, and the next size smaller will sit right in here. And so our goal is to just kind of frame that in so that the world has a nice edge on it. Okay, and this one, that's sitting there pretty good. So that plugs the gap over on the right. If we put this all the way back to the edge, you're going to have a gap beneath the building and between those two buildings. So something like this, or oops, like that, is where I'm going. Okay. And then we'll put another couple of buildings in here. 3 actually, like that. Okay. And then we'll pick up this glass tower. We're going to line this up with the edge of this building, and then we're going to slide it all the way over to the left. And part of the reason for putting a row of buildings across here is to hide some of the ugliness back there. We don't want players to see all of that, because it's not pretty. Alright, so there we have that building. And just run a variety of buildings down the side here. is all we really want to do. Try to mix it up, put different ones in here. Don't do the same thing over and over again because that gets boring. I want to put different widths, different heights. There we go. And we've kind of framed in an area up there around that building. So that's our little downtown area. And then we'll come over here and let's go back to that glass building. And let's cover up the gap underneath the road here. So I think this will look good. We'll put a tall office building in here on side of that. This shorter office building on side of that. And then this big one in here. And at this point, we're just putting in enough detail back here to hide. Oh, make sure we plug the gaps and hide the fact that we've got some ugliness back there. Alright, so there, that covers up that side of the gap. Now we'll do the same thing with this side. And we'll use that red brick building again. If you want to use different buildings, you're welcome to do so. Try to stick with the same size as I have here. But yeah, if you like the glass building better than the brick, feel free to use that. It's the same height or same width and length as the other one, so that works nicely. And let's see. I think to get everything to line up right, let's come back over here. We're going to put this one in here. You can see the front edge of that building comes right up to the edge of the railing there. It lines up with the brick underneath the overpass. And it lines up with this little brick thing here. And then we can cover up that hole with the glass tower. And that sits in there nicely, just like that. And then a couple of buildings over here. So that sits in there. We can put a taller building in here. Again, you want good variety of heights. Don't put everything the same height, because buildings in a city are never all a consistent height. And they're not perfectly square either. So we got a little indent over here on this side. We got an indent there on that side. It just makes it look a little more interesting. All right, on this side of the street, let's use the stately Metroville Tower. We're going to bring this over to the edge of the freeway there, lined up with the brick under the overpass. Put the glass building in there, and then a brick building. And then for something a little bit different, we'll put in a couple of parking structures. And one of the reasons I wanted to use the parking structures is because they're kind of short, and there's a benefit to that, because when we put the factory in over there, we want to be able to see it from different places in the toy box. And so by putting the shorter things in down on this end with the two parking garages with this shorter end, you'll be able to see that factory a little bit better from different, more different places in the toy box. So I think that's good. And then let's go ahead and just pick this piece up and put it down. Drop one of these right over here. This is the size building we need. to fit in there. Put another glass one in here. And again, another shorter building like that. And I changed the texture on this a couple of episodes ago. So that kind of going to create a little park area there, just to divide things up a little bit. Now over here, let's go back to Building Sets Group 2, and we're going to put a few storefronts in here. So some of these I think would work nicely under here, and let's put this brownstone building under. So that fits under there just like that. Put those there like that. And then back up to the buildings drawer. This piece is going to sit in this little corner like that and cover up the gap for the road. And we need one more building here to cover up the rest of that little gap. So that's good. And hang on a second while I get my screen grab. Okay, so the next building we'll put down up here. Okay. And then this one we're going to sit down below here to cover up the gap under that road. A little flicking of the the control pad to kind of quickly move these buildings over doesn't seem to want to work for these particular building pieces, so oh well. Alright, and then actually we want to line this up with this building. Slide this over, and that way we won't have a gap there. Now those it works. Okay, that frames that in nicely. And coming back over here, we'll put one of those in, followed by our tall one, followed by couple of these red brick ones. See that little flick trick with the cursor? Doesn't work with all of these buildings, unfortunately. Alright, so we'll place that one there, and then we'll put two of these glass skyscrapers in there. And that's sufficient, because we want to be able, as we're coming down the road here, to be able to look over that way and see the factory. But we want a nice border around here so the player knows where they need to go when they're racing or when they're driving around the toy box. Alright, so there is the city, the layout of the buildings, and now we're going to go through and add some details, and this is going to take some time, so I'm going to do this offline. And when I'm done, I'll resume the video and show you where to place all of the pieces. Alright, I am back, and I have added all of the remaining details for the city portions of the toy box. So let me take you on a quick tour, and I'll show you which pieces I used and where I placed them. And those of you who are following along and building this on your own systems, you can pause the video along the way while you recreate what I've got here. So the first thing I did was add some of the storefronts around, and again, we've seen these are in the buildings category. And I put a newspaper stand here on the corner. This is also from the buildings category. And I added a storefront over here, and I put one there, and one there, and one there. I did not put any down the back side of this, You can if you want to, but I figured that side's not going to be seen most often by the player, so I saved some memory. And then I placed some of these autumn trees, like we have seen in previous episodes. They're the same ones I've been using. And I put a line of these, down along the front of the courthouse here, if you want to call it that. And I'll try to give you a good look at how I positioned all of these, because I know some of you like to get these exactly as I have them. And then I put a couple of little bit larger trees here on either end. You can see how that lines up with that terrain seam there. And then over here we put this little storefront on the front of that. You could stick one here too if you'd like, but I didn't do that. All right, and then coming down here, we have a couple of storefronts we added there, and a few of these customizable plants here. These are the first 9 plants out of the plants drawer. And we're going to theme all of these using the city park theme. I'll get to that in a moment. I'll do all of those at once so that you can see exactly what pieces I've got here. But you can see the pieces that I've used. Notice too how they're lined up with each other. So those are kind of tip to tip. This one's lined up that way, and this one like you see there. And then coming around this side of the block, got another storefront there. And then we have some more autumn trees here. These are back one little nudge away from the road as compared to these. Okay, so these are pretty much right up on the edge of the road. These are not. I slid these back just a little bit. And I did that because as the player comes around that corner, I want to give them a little bit of extra space to be able to straighten out their car before they reach the overpass. And notice how I rotated these trees so that you don't see the same side on both of them. Makes it not quite so repetitive. And then on this side of the street, those trees are directly across from these. And you can see I got another storefront there. I also put a couple more trees down this way and a couple on the corner of each corner of this parking garage. All right, over here, a couple more little customizable plants. You can see I've got them right on the edge of the terrain there between the two textures. And some customizable, or some autumn trees here and a couple of storefronts there. They're not customizable. And then over here, kind of an interesting little square type area. And up here we have 3 autumn trees. Try to give you a good look at those. Again, pause the video along the way if you need to, so that you can see what I've got, where I've placed these. This one's kind of right off the end of this terrain seam here, and this terrain seam that runs there. And then this one's back over here, and 2 of those little ones on either side of that front there. And then down here, another little storefront there, and a couple of them over there. All right, so that's all of the pieces that I've placed. Then we want to go ahead and style these, as I said, to use the city park theme, and I'm going to theme all, because these are the only customizable plants I've used so far. And that adds more of the autumn type colors with some nice edging on things. And it fills in the space kind of nice. If you wanted to, you could put some of those little dining tables in here, like we did down at the end of that street. They're from Building Sets Group 3, and they're the little umbrella tables with the red and white umbrellas. So if you wanted to, you could put those over here as well. I chose not to do that because I'm trying to save a little bit of memory. And the player really probably is only going to see this area when they are passing by, either on their way through the racing or on their way up to the courthouse or down from there in order to look for the children. So with that, the city portion of my Monstropolis toy box is done. Next time, we'll start working on building the exterior of the Monsters, Inc. factory. You won't want to miss that, so if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, be sure to do that before you go. And if you enjoyed my video today, please hit the like button and leave a comment to let me know. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.